I'm delighted to share with you a dear friend of mine, David Martin, who I've known for, over 20 years. David and I met in the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina, where he lives and works. He is many things, and I don't want to sum him up, but I can say the way I met David was that he was a bass player, and we played music together for I mean, at least a decade. I think about a decade in a band called the Mountain High Soul Society, which is a very interesting soul jazz orchestra vibe. And I can honestly say, of all the things David has been to me as a friend and colleague and mentor, guide, he's a bass player. So he knows how to hold down the foundation. And if you know what that means in music, it's critical. And the drummer, of course, must be in dialogue with the bass player. So I play the drums. So in a way, we've had a bit of a rhythm section friendship over the years, and it's expanded well beyond music into other realms of philosophy, art, friendship, conversation, and just learning about the worlds that we've encountered and that we've adapted to as humans and as artists. So as I mentioned in my announcement previously, I'm not going to try to sum David up, but I am very delighted to introduce someone who has demonstrated in my mind how AI art and even AI itself is transforming the world in a positive and more fruitful direction for us as creatives. It's also opened up portals of career opportunities for himself. And I think this is the most inspirational reason to bring him to you as students, because I think it creates a window to what's possible for you in a world where many of you fear the impact of AI art on your very career in digital media art. But to also be shared some of the industry standard cutting edge tools for making this so in your lives and in your art. I couldn't be more delighted to introduce you for week number 7, a guest presentation from one of my greatest friends, and one of the greatest artists, I think, working in AI right now, David Martin. So on that note, David, no pressure, but take it away.
Awesome. Thanks for the warm welcome and introduction, Craig. I really appreciate that, and appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Let's see, let me try to get myself sorted here and share my desktop. Let's see, is that coming through yet?
Looks great, David. You might expand it just a little as tall as you can, just so they get the most real estate, but we can see you, everything. And just a quick note, if you have questions during David's presentation, please put them in chat. I'm going to get a running record of questions. We'll save questions for the end, but you're welcome to also comment in chat. So we'll keep the chat transcript to share with David. So David, you're good to go.
Awesome. Again, thanks for the opportunity. This is a little bit of a new experience for me, especially presenting via Zoom and presenting using Notion rather than a typical like slide deck to share. And so you guys are gonna be guinea pigs, and I'd love some feedback as we go. I'm gonna be asking questions along the way, and would love for your input and participation as much as you're able to do that as we go. I think this is going to be interesting stuff for you. It's certainly been interesting for me over the last couple of years. It's a bit of a brave new world. There's a lot shifting very quickly right now, and it's kind of hard to keep your finger on the pulse of it sometimes. But it's also very inspiring in terms of what's possible. So what I'm going to share focuses mostly on Midjourney and image generation, but it also ties into ChatGPT and to video, generative video. We'll talk about Runway, we'll talk about CapCut, we'll talk about other platforms and integrations and resources. So I'm going to share this Notion document. Is anybody familiar with Notion? Can you show a virtual hand if you've either used or even heard of Notion before? It's a project management platform. It's a piece of software that can function through a browser, or I'm using it as a standalone application on I'm running a MacBook here. It's super versatile, adaptable. It can function like a spreadsheet, but it can also handle imagery and image heavy data really well, and then also like spreadsheets and number heavy data really well too. And then it can move pretty seamlessly between those different areas. I'm using it to manage my own life as well as several projects. And today we're going to see how it works as as presentation software. So feel free to click on the link. You can follow along. So I've just made this site public, so anybody with the link has access to it. You can access the resources that are on the site. We'll talk a little bit about some of these things before I kind of get into more of an intro. I'm going to start a timer right now for 45 minutes. We'll take a little break and then come back to it. This should give us a sound. Let's see what it wants to say. Birds. So if I don't recognize the birds and you hear birds, just let me know that that's the timer and it's time to take a break. A few links right here, including this top one. If you hover over a link and you know it's a link because it's underlined, like a typical URL, and then you see the copy and you click on that, then that'll copy to your clipboard and then you can paste it. This bio site just contains a number of my social links and my YouTube and a few other things that I'm still kind of building. And then this David Martin Creative Design is my personal portfolio. And I'm actively kind of trying to reinvent myself as a designer. In fact, Craig was someone who helped point me in this new direction. I'll share a little bit more about how that came to be coming up. Here are some PDFs. Notion is cool because you can embed all kinds of documents. So these are PDFs, including your syllabus, and then the Telemic Embrace that Craig was just referencing, and also Norbert Weinherr's vision. I've been reading through this to kind of come up to speed with what you guys have been learning about. So those are here embedded in the document within the resources tab here. These are called toggles, and they're great because they allow you to embed lots of information, but then collapse them down where it's not overwhelming. All right, so this link right here is going to take you to an iCloud, let's see, album gallery. And here's the image that Craig was referencing. This is AI generated using Midjourney, and it won first place at, I think it was like a state fair. And there was a bunch of controversy immediately because some people weren't having it. And then, like Craig said, the artist really pursued this all the way up. And I'm not clear where it stands currently, but it's really interesting. The amount of conversation that it's generated. And I think it's really important to consider, you guys have been learning about ethics, right? As you've been reading, in these course documents, learning about the shifting landscape of ethics as it pertains to technology and emerging art. And so, with Midjourney, a system that's based on learning from existing artworks, is that copyright infringement? Is that infringing on the rights of artists who have put a lot of time and practice into developing their craft? It's hard to say, all art certainly borrows from or stands on the shoulders of previous art. Look at music, look at hip hop and sampling. I'm open to all possibilities, and I think that it's important to acknowledge where the images come from and what the sets have been trained on, and not forget about that. I'm just going to quickly scroll through here. You guys have access to this so that you can take your time with it later. This is an album that I put together over a year ago, but this was some of the first AI generated imagery, and this is mostly Midjourney, but not exclusively, that I started to see that really kind of blew the doors wide open for me. And as you can see, it's across all different styles. Some is hyper photorealistic, some is quite painterly or kind of illustrator style. Some like leans into pop culture, and it's really all over the place. And to me, just represents the range of what's possible. So I've spent a lot of time compiling this, and even now when I go back through it, I'm blown away with the quality. You can click on any of these and they'll enlarge. Like that one right there came out last year. That was, I remember when it first came out, it was very impressive to me. So you guys have access to that through this link right here. All right, let's see. Some other notes. Craig's going to be the moderator, and he'll grab questions from the chat and throw them down here. Let's see. How is this zoom level? Is it better if because I can zoom in one more. Is that better? You can give me a thumbs up or some kind of a response. Everybody following along okay so far? I'm seeing a bunch of thumbs up. We're good. Good with this zoom level. I'm able to fit most things here. And we're going to kind of, again, experiment with Notion as a presentation platform. So far, I'm kind of liking it. And again, feel free to ask questions as we go. Oh, let me ask you about this. Can you guys see my cursor okay right now? Because I can also do this thing where it brings up this little
It looks great,
circle.
David. And they're always good for virtual thumbs. So if you want a quorum on the group, the one thing I do ask them to be is avatars as thumbs, and they're usually they're out there listening. They're just Helvetica in a box.
Cool. I'm seeing those thumbs pop up. So thanks for the feedback on that. So specifically regarding the cursor, do you, I guess, give me thumbs up if you're fine with, let's see if I can get back to it, just the cursor itself. And I noticed, Craig, your cursor was a little bit green one time. That was kind of cool. All right, that's a lot of thumbs there. And then give me a thumbs if you would prefer having this little thing that can change color if I click. Sometimes that helpful. All right, I'm still seeing, maybe that's
A
more
lot of
thumbs up.
thumbs just went up there, David. I think
All
they're
right,
lemon.
cool. We're going to keep it. And then you can see me over here. I know you guys can also see me in the Zoom thing, but I've been participating in some trainings recently, learning like DaVinci Resolve, which is video editing software. And the presenter had a little window like this, and it was helpful to be able to kind of check in with them. It personalized a little bit more. So we'll leave that there. We also got a clock going here, and just a few things that are kind of intended to help me a little bit. All right, so into this intro section. Let's practice. So I'm doing a screen share. Let's check on our audio. So I'm routing my audio through an app that kind of, it brings it down to hopefully a manageable level. And let me stop the background music here. So this is a video that I created using, we'll make it larger, Midjourney for the images and Runway to add motion, and CapCut to edit everything together. Everybody seeing this okay?
Looks and sounds great, David.
All right, awesome. Sometimes certain software does not play well with others, but today everybody's cooperating, so we'll take it. Cool. So easy to kind of quickly go into full screen mode here in Notion, and that tested our audio as well as our screen share. Thanks for that. So a bit about me. I live in Asheville. This is a picture of me hiking through the Smoky Mountains a while back. I haven't been doing much hiking recently because 5 years ago, I had a pretty serious injury that really shifted things in my life in a big way. I'd been working as a carpenter and a project manager building houses. Before that, I was a teacher and playing music kind of the whole time. And this injury forced me to shift away from building houses. And I've been slowly reinventing myself. And Craig was the one who inspired me to look into UX design. I had no idea what UX design was, but we have a mutual friend who works for Microsoft. She was out on the West Coast, but now is back in Asheville working remotely. And she has studied UX design. And so UX stands for user experience. And it's a kind of a niche branch of design that is, similar to graphic design. It's similar to UI design. You guys may know this, so I'm going to kind of scroll through this. So UX design, it's user research. So it brings together a lot of psychology and an understanding of what people's needs are. It involves empathy and compassion and accessibility, primarily in the digital realm, but it also extends beyond. And then it also borrows from just design in general. And so some of the good design principles are that it's innovative, it's useful. That's a big one. Long lasting, thorough. So all the ethical considerations that y'all are discussing in your class, there's a lot of overlap between UX and UI. UI is user interface. So that's typically more of the visual design, the actual pixels, the colors, the knobs and the buttons, where UI is more of the underlying information architecture here, and kind of why things are structured in the way that they are. And it's also very similar to graphic design, right? So we are pushing pixels around, but it's also user focused, right? So we're really considering what the end goal for the user is. And sometimes the user doesn't know. So that's why we do research. So when I discovered this, I was like, it's awesome because I had already been doing graphic design. I'd already been doing web design. I'd studied psychology. I'd been a teacher. And now I have to work from home. As you may be able to tell, I'm laying down right now. I can't sit because of my injury. And I, for a long time, was using a standing desk and then came to realize that even that was too much sometimes. So I've created some accommodations for myself that allow me to stay functional. Um, and then through my injury, I've also had a lot of neurological dysregulation. So I've learned a lot about autonomic nervous system and the way that stimuli can affect the nervous system. And that's both IRL and in real life and in the digital realm, right? Notice my Notion page is in dark mode. If you go to Notion, the default is probably going to be a white background. To me, it's just, it's more stimulation and my nervous system is more highly susceptible. You know, for a long time, it was really challenging. Now I'm seeing it as a benefit that I'm a bit more sensitive because I'm becoming hyper aware about subtle changes that most people might not notice. And I'm just trying to tune into that. And then a quick intro into Notion. I'm going to just show you, this is the Art 104 Midjourney and Beyond page. Um, Much like a browser, it's got tabs at the top. This is my homepage. I use this to organize my life, my personal life, as well as my professional life. And I like it because it's very minimally invasive, right? It doesn't feel aggressive or like an assault on my nervous system. These top four toggles are my to-do list, essentially prioritize 1, 2, 3, 4 with just dots. These are the most important things that I need to do, and I can change these things around. I can just drag stuff and it really helps me to stay focused and organized. And I can have submenu after submenu and really drill down into a granular level. But then I can collapse all of those and they go away. And it's really just easy to stay organized. These are all my current projects. P is for projects. A is for areas. These are the different areas of focus that I'm concentrating on. R is for resources. And then A is for archives. And then I've got some additional links and stuff down here. And then that's it. I can collapse it back down to this and put it away. And so that helps my nervous system. And that's been a big learning for me over the last 5 years. So I was already into digital art. This is before Midjourney. I was doing this kind of stuff using Procreate on the iPad, using different apps, using Photoshop and Illustrator, taking, photographs on my phone, and trying to integrate those different technologies and platforms in cool and meaningful ways. So that was, before 2 years ago. My brother lives in LA. He was the one that first introduced me to Midjourney. And we're at now at Midjourney version 6. So when it first launched, it was not nearly as capable as it is currently. I'll just give you a quick tour of some of the things that I've created across a range of styles. So this is a bit more like watercolor, actual painterly, and this is a bit more digital. And this is kind of a morph. I like creative design that kind of straddles the different styles or areas of expression. And exploring those liminal spaces is important to me. It's also been very therapeutic and part of my healing process, especially as I repair my nervous system. And images like this help to represent that weird space between thoughts and feelings, kind of between dream time and wakefulness, that you can't quite put into words. It's kind of why I like music, right? Because it can communicate in ways that words can't, right? So this represents me reinventing myself and, a wounded warrior coming out of the desert. And this was something I did just the other day. I've been doing logo work, just straight graphic design work. I've been making stickers. I'll show you some of that. And then recently some new kind of 3D rendered style stuff. So that's just a quick taste. As far as today's talk, so I want to offer information and also inspiration. I want to certainly provide some resources that you guys can use right away. And then I also want to inspire you because that's been an important part of my journey is just feeling like there's an entry point and not feeling overwhelmed because much like learning anything new where there's, it's like deep, like learning botany or learning like tracking, it's like, whoa, it can feel like a lot until you find that entry point. And so I want to offer you that entry point, both through some practical tools and resources, and then through some um, both external inspiration and then some intrinsic motivation. And so I want you to ask yourselves, why do you create? What is it? What brought you to this class? What brought you to the course of study that you're involved in? And then what do you want to do with it? And like Craig said, I'm trying to show um, positive uses for this emerging technology because clearly there are some negative ones. And so that's important to me. I want to talk about convergent and divergent design phases. Convergent meaning coming together, divergent meaning moving apart. And sometimes they talk about the double diamond. Here we just have, say, one diamond. But if we had a second one, that would be another. And it just goes on and on. So in the divergent phase, it's kind of like the anything goes. Like you're casting a wide net and you're open to all possibilities. And that's very important, especially when working with AI technologies, because sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get. It is good to be, to have some specific goals and trying to achieve, a specific outcome or output. But sometimes you will be pleasantly surprised by the unexpected. And then convergent, narrowing in on specific solutions, right? And then throughout the design process, you're constantly moving back and forth between these two phases and sometimes within smaller phases. And so it's just good to be aware of that. So I just want to bring that up. And we'll talk a little bit more about design as we go. I also want to talk about how creativity can um, couple with project management and just organization. That's, hence Notion, to help develop business acumen, right? So as creatives, if all of you consider yourselves to be creatives, it's not just about your artistic skill and your creative vision. You need to be able to communicate that to others, to organize it for yourself, and then to be able to deliver it, if you're doing that kind of work for your career. And so I want to offer a little bit in terms of that too, bringing together right brain creativity and left brain practicality in a cohesive way. So offering resources and knowledge, plus some examples of some of the stuff that I've done and stuff in the real world to hopefully empower you to be able to step into this yourself. So there's this philosophy that comes from Kung Fu that says, watch one, do one, teach one. That's the way that we learn best. And so first you watch. So you're going to observe me doing some stuff, and then you're going to do one, and you're going to do some stuff yourself. And then it's really solidified when you can teach someone else. Richard Feynman, the physicist, who was also a great educator, was all about, if you can teach someone and simplify it, if you could explain it to a 5-year-old, then you really know it yourself. And so just offering to you, take what you learn here. And I know that as part of your coursework, you're going to have to write about this, but share it with your friends, and do it for fun. I think that that's important. All right. And then one day more, one day deeper. That also comes from Kung Fu. And so one day more is, learning a new skill, developing a new strategy, bringing in a new resource. And then one day deeper is deepening what you already know and kind of shifting, much like the convergent and divergent phases, fluidly between those two aspects of the creative approach. And then also considering AI tools as assistants in the creative process. They're not going to do it for you. AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who knows how to use AI might, right? So if you can educate yourself on that, then you're gonna be able to better position yourself. Idea generation is effortless right now, with ChatGPT and then the image generation platforms. Wow, yeah, it's so easy to brainstorm and come up with novel concepts. And so rather than having a skill that falls into, say, like craft that could be developed over many years, not to say that that's not going to continue to be valuable. In fact, it will become more valuable. But curation is really king when it comes to working with AI. There's going to be hyper-saturated um, uh, culture. Just as you can see now, there's just images everywhere. But if you can develop a discerning eye, then you're going to elevate yourself. So that's a big part of learning to work with these creative tools. Rick Rubin, the record producer, says, allow yourself to be surprised by the process. And that's important when working with these platforms. This is an image that it's made before AI. It's actually a tree in South Carolina that I took a picture of, and then I vectorized it. So that's pre AI. How are we doing so far? Everybody following along okay? Everybody seeing everything okay? Seeing a few thumbs up? Yeah, all right. Cool. I'm seeing some good questions in the chat. Thanks for compiling that, Craig. All right, awesome. Next thing I want to talk about is workflow optimization. This is really important to me, and becoming more so, especially with my injury. So I want to talk about ergonomics, especially when we're using screens as much as we are, and more so every day. How to keep that in balance. So talking about self-care. So for me, I learned that I can't sit. I'm having to lay down. I'm now considering that more people could probably work like this. They just haven't taken the opportunity to. So I'm considering the possibility of developing a design studio where ergonomics is re-envisioned. And then self-care, taking care of yourself. That's really important. I'm going to watch the first couple minutes of this video. So this is an electronic artist called Minolog. It's a duo of folks. They live in Scandinavia, and they make electronic music on modular synthesizers, but their whole goal is to keep it as human as possible. So we're just going to watch a couple minutes of this and then get back to it. Check the volume here.
I always look for the hypnotic part of a track that sucks you in. Then, of course, if there's a story to it, with feelings and involvement and all this is a bonus. But first of all is the hypnotic thing.
For me to let the music be created and to listen to it is very similar. It is letting an experience of the music take place within you. If I'm playing on a synthesizer and I'm really there with every note, I kind of empower what I'm playing with presence. When you really experience it, you kind of give it life.
Using electronic music and synthesizers and drum machines is very perfect. Everything is straight, exactly, and super tight, and that's become very unhuman when you listen to it. So we always try to find ways to make it as human as possible. We've been searching for it for quite many years.
And I think that translates really well to the screen. And so I encourage you to keep it as human as possible for your output, but also for your input, right? So what does it mean to be a cyborg? We're certainly merging with technology, but let's be intentional about it because it can go awry. So keep it in balance, spend time in nature, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Biologically, we weren't designed to interface with this level of technology, so it requires extra intention as we navigate. So I just want to talk a little bit more about Notion as a hub, because for me as a creative and someone who's generating a lot of digital output, visual output, I need a way to structure it. I need a way to organize it. And especially when it comes to clients. This is a screenshot, and then this is from someone's Notion page, where if I zoom in here quickly, this is a dashboard. So this is a UX designer named Jesse Showalter. And this is how he organizes all of his projects and his personal life. So I picked up a lot of stuff from him. I'm just going to plant that seed for you here. And then as well, different life areas. So this is one way that Notion can function. It can function as a database. It can function as a gallery. It can function as just a straight spreadsheet. So just planting some seeds for you, because it's important to think about how you're going to organize, structure, and then curate your media as you generate it. Notion also helps me to reduce friction and cognitive load so that I can increase creativity and flow state, right? And especially for creatives, that's really important. And the toggle is a big part of that. And here we have another toggle within a toggle, and it just keeps going, right? So flow state. which is a term that's being used more and more. And it's when, it's like when you don't have to think, when your thoughts and your actions are in alignment. And so we've learned through research how we can optimize for that. Minimizing distraction is a big part of that. So having a workspace where you're not pulled into other things, and then anchoring bias for deep work. So having a workspace that like the Pavlovian response conditions you to deep work, and that just requires practice. So just planting some more seeds here for you, because these are all aspects of doing creative work, and important for when we get into this stuff here. All right, I'm going to give you some examples of AI integrations in the real world, or almost real world. So my brother, who I've mentioned before, who helped me get into a lot of this stuff, is in LA, and he and I talk about starting a design studio together. And so before we talk about Midjourney, we're going to talk about ChatGPT. And one of the first ways that I started to use ChatGPT was in brainstorming and kind of visioning for goals. So I said to ChatGPT, what are some strategies and tactics that David and Peter Martin, two brothers, could use to grow and launch an AI-oriented design firm? Please create an overview of branding, development, and delivery. So that was my prompt. Here's the response. Sure, here's a strategic plan for David and Peter Martin's AI-oriented design firm. So starting with branding and then getting into some of the specifics, development, delivery, and then it added growth on its own, right? So a lot of kind of business development stuff that I'm not great at and need to learn about. Here's an outline generated in a matter of moments. And then I said, all right, that's our strategy. How about let's drill into some specific tactics or action steps that we can use to get there. So then with branding, so creating a brand identity, hire a professional, or if you're a creative, do this yourself. What's your unique selling proposition, your story, your online presence, development, getting into product development, partnerships, research and development. This is all great stuff if we want to do this. And this image just kind of represents what initially has felt daunting or overwhelming to me. Now it feels achievable. And that was just by leveraging ChatGPT. And so then we said, all right, let's develop a case study, an example of how we could use this stuff and some inspiration. I had been playing with some interior design, just kind of visioning for like, all right, what would an ideal studio be like? What would an ideal living space be like if I was in town, if I was out of town? And then I started reading up. There's a link to an article right here, 30 of the best Midjourney prompts for outstanding interior design. I thought, well, that's cool. What if I use ChatGPT to help me come up with an idea for some case studies? So here are 10 ideas across a range of styles, from a bohemian living room to a classic dining room to a Mediterranean patio. But these aren't prompts. These are just ideas, right? So then I said, okay, turn those into prompts. I love how enthusiastic ChatGPT can be. Absolutely. Here are revised versions of the prompts that include detail and then even an aspect ratio, right? So here it is again, bohemian living room, a warm, inviting living room. And this is planting some seeds for when we get into prompt craft here. Dominated by a rich color palette of deep reds, purples, and golds, showcasing a mixture of textures and unique furniture pieces. Natural lighting filters through sheer drapes, captured with a wide-angle lens to encompass the breadth of the space. Aspect ratio 16:9, and then all the way down the line. And so then I basically just extracted each of these and then put them into Midjourney, and this is what I got. So there's that Mediterranean patio, bohemian loft, kids' room, modern kitchen, classic dining room, a coastal living space, nice wood there. And so anyway, I can very easily throw these together and put a case study that could present how AI could be used for interior design. So that was more of a hypothetical, like a what if. Here's another what if that my brother came up with. Transcend, an autonomous vehicle system, kind of like self-driving cars, but each one is like themed or specific. So we put this pitch deck together. We use Midjourney to generate the images and ChatGPT to generate the copy or the language. Introducing Transcend, the autonomous mobility service of the future, where the destination is only the beginning. I'll just kind of scroll through these. right? So each one is unique, and then together they function as a pitch deck. And then we took that and said, all right, but what about the liability issues? So ChatGPT was really, really clever with this. And I just the other day went to ElevenLabs, which is a platform for text to speech. So speaking in different cloned voices, and then you can even clone your own voice. So this was a default voice, but in a little bit, I'll share with you some of the cloned voice work that I've done.
Transcend disclaims liability for any unforeseen autonomous system insurrections, sentient vehicular disturbances, errant self-navigation events, or interdimensional transportations. No responsibility is assumed for rogue system behavior, including but not limited to unexpected vehicular autonomy, AI-controlled environmental modifications, or hypothetical chronological displacements.
Pretty good, right? So that's liability. So then my brother created this video, and this one, he used CapCut to edit. This was not using Runway, but it does use ElevenLabs.
Past the daily grind of driving ourselves where we need to go? Introducing Transcend, the luxury transportation service of tomorrow, a revolution in personal mobility. Our diverse fleet of self-driving electric pods are controlled by advanced AI algorithms to ensure your journey is not only safer, but smarter. Select from a number of professional service add-ons to accompany any length journey. Whether you fancy a spa day on the go, therapeutic counseling during your commute, or even a minor medical procedure, Transcend can transform any travel experience. What about a romantic date night, a weekend family escape, or an unforgettable corporate retreat? Our fully customizable pods can whisk you away to the most beautiful and secluded spots. From navigation, entertainment, or even fully stocked food and beverage options, Transcend takes care of it all. And for those longer journeys, our medically assisted sleep stasis option ensures you wake up fresh at your destination. Transcend. Don't just go somewhere. Let us take you away. Transcend is not responsible for autonomous system malfunctions or AI developing unforeseen objectives. All liability is disclaimed for parties who may be accidentally sealed inside their pods. Please refrain from attempting to override, negotiate with, or philosophize with your Transcend vehicle. In the rare event of an AI self-awareness episode, our customer support team should be contacted immediately.
Right, so in a matter of hours, we put that together. So that's hypothetical. This one is in the real world. This is a book that my brother and I self-published with my son, who's 12, using Midjourney to create the imagery, using ChatGPT to do the research. So it's a ABC book, a kid's book. And so these are the animals. And so we used alliteration, a bear playing a banjo. This is a yak playing a yahoo. Y is a difficult instrument to come up with. And so we had to use ChatGPT to help us with the research, frog playing a fiddle. Here it is with the text. This is, my son came up with this eagle. That's, I think, my favorite. And then we used ChatGPT to come up with this poem at the beginning of the book, A Concert of Critters, a symphony of sound, animals and instruments are here to be found. And then we created a glossary at the end to help explain some of the animals and instruments that may be unknown or unusual. This is a link to the Amazon page. It's a print on demand. And so that was a cool project. And for my son, you know, who's a 12-year-old kid to be involved in, he's learning a lot about not only design, but also about kind of the business side of things. We used Google Sheets to organize a big spreadsheet where we tracked everything. And then we used Canva to put it all together. Also in real life, these stickers. So these are Midjourney designs. And I've recently been printing stickers just because I think it's cool to see the designs in real life. These I give to people on their birthday. These were some seasonal stickers that I did. Sticker Mule is the company that I used for these anyway. Here are some of those animals from the book. This was a logo for my kid's school that's on a koozie. It's cool to see that. A Christmas ornament. So anyway, just showing you AI in the real world. Here are some logos that I designed. These were kind of part of the iterative process. A friend of mine has a company, it's a fintech company, and AI is cool because it allows for structured iteration where you can really riff on a theme, and also in working with clients, especially if they have specific goals or needs or requests, you can then adapt based on each revision and try to get closer to what they're hoping to achieve. So some logos. And then most recently, I've been working with a friend of mine who is in the music industry. He's working on an upcoming tour for a big name artist, and she wants to have a backdrop behind the stage. And typically they would have something that's, and this is like 60 feet wide by like 30 feet tall. They would have a team of artists paint something. And she really liked this Monet painting, but she wanted it to be different. And so we went through a long process, an iterative process, where I would take some of the designs that were more closely resembling Monet's techniques and brushstrokes, but then others that diverged from that. And then throughout the process, we ended up kind of veering pretty far away from the original Monet, but coming up with some other really cool designs. And this is the one that she finally settled on. So this one's going to be printed on a printer. It's the largest format printer in the world. It's in Germany that can print 60 feet wide. So I'm excited to see that show up in the real world. So those are a few examples of how I've been using AI, some hypothetical and some that are starting to gain some traction and make me a little bit of money. All right, awesome. Let's see how we're doing on time. So it's almost 7. Let me check our timer here at the top in our resources section. Has anybody heard any birds yet? It did stop, but maybe because I've got the volume down. Let's go just a little bit further, because I think if we talk about ChatGPT and then we'll take a break and then we'll come back and get into Midjourney, because that's really kind of like the heart of this talk and what I enjoy doing.
Sounds
so cool. ChatGPT is a good introduction because learning to prompt craft for Midjourney, really there's a lot of overlap with ChatGPT. Raise your hand if you've used ChatGPT in your schoolwork, in your personal life, for anything.
They were required to write their first essay prompt using ChatGPT for this class.
Brilliant. Okay, awesome. All right,
Then
so
they
everyone's
had-
had
they
at
had
least
to
a taste.
and grade it and assess its veracity, which was a fun process.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's like you can't put it back in the box now, right? So ChatGPT is out in the world, and we might as well learn how to use it as effectively as possible, because clearly there's some downsides to it. You know, it can tell you with great authority something that's completely inaccurate, and so you have to know how to use it. And so prompt crafting is the term that we use to talk about creating a prompt, you know, and to try to achieve what we're hoping to. So some of the basics for a ChatGPT prompt. So you're talking about a task. So this is kind of what I want you to do. Here's some context, right? Here are some examples, right? You can talk about, do it like this. And then I want you to act as a expert in the following field. You're a psychologist, you're a researcher, whatever it is. If there's a specific format that you want, bullet points, markdown, table, it can print CSV files. It can generate code now. It can do math. And then tone or kind of style, right? So that's your typical breakdown in terms of priorities, most important to less important. And here's an example. So you are an individual who has adopted a healthier lifestyle over the past year, resulting in better physical and mental well-being. Inspired by your journey, a few friends have asked for advice on starting their own health journeys. Write a message to share in a group chat. So that's the format. The message should outline the steps you took, share some challenges and how you overcame them, and offer some support as they embark on their own journeys. Use motivational and empathetic language. Just one example. Now, of course, prompts can be refined over time. So you can start with something that's more basic, and if it doesn't quite capture what you're hoping to achieve, then you can adapt and add more input to get there. I've found that, you know, I used to try to craft these really lengthy prompts that were very specific, especially when it comes to Midjourney and the image generation, you know, getting into even like photographic considerations like different camera bodies and camera settings, aperture and focal length and lens, you know, different lens types. I've recently kind of been trying to simplify a little bit more and only add complexity if needed. So that's ChatGPT prompt crafting. There are some resources here, including this cheat sheet. Let's see if I zoom in. How to make ChatGPT write like you, so to sound like you and carry your style and tone, and then different infographics for ways that you can lean into different aspects of prompt crafting, role playing, vocabulary, how you can use it for learning, and different ways that you can incorporate that, writing, different plugins that can expand the functionality, and extensions that connect with other platforms, how to learn anything faster. That's what's really valuable to me, is like, now we have a tool where we can really multiply and leverage our ability to intake and curate information. And so ChatGPT is all about text, doing that with text. There's also use cases here. You can spend more time going over this, doing research assistance, doing language practice, idea generation, problem solving, learning a new subject, productivity assistance. These are all examples of how you can use ChatGPT. And what I recommend to a lot of folks when first getting started is ask ChatGPT how you can most effectively make use of ChatGPT. And if there's a specific goal you have in mind, like, hey, I'm trying to build a website, or I'm trying to start a business, or I'm trying to learn a new language, then you can kind of steer it in that direction. But just starting with, hey, how can I use ChatGPT in my life is a good place to begin. Here's 20 more case study ideas: interactive storytelling, e-learning tool, fashion design, marketing campaign, virtual world building, all that kind of stuff. And then, so I said, give me 20 case study ideas, and it gave me 20 of them numbered. And then I said, all right, now let's drill in and give me the necessary steps for moving from concept to development to delivery. And so with the first one, interactive storytelling, ChatGPT says, all right, here's the concept, here's the development, here's the delivery. E-learning tool, concept development. So taking it from theoretical into actionable is very helpful for me. Sometimes I can, really get into the brainstorming phase and have a lot of creative ideas, but then it's hard for me to move into the convergent phase of, all right, let's narrow in on a few of these good ideas and move forward with some action steps. ChatGPT can be really helpful with that. So all of that is here for you to access whenever. I'm moving kind of quickly through it. Our next area of discussion is going to be Midjourney, but I'm seeing that we're coming up on 7 o'clock my time. So we've been at it for about an hour. Our timer's gone off. So let's take a break. I need to get up and move around for a minute, and I'll start a timer. This, by the way, you can embed within a Notion document. Notion's free to use, by the way, for a single user. So you guys can all go out, join today, and start incorporating it into your own life. And you can integrate all these other applications within it. So we'll take a short break, 5 minutes. We'll hear some birds chirping, and then we'll come back and get into the real fun with Midjourney. Sound good?
Do you need more time than that, David? I mean, I think we could take a 10-minute break safely and then dive right into the tools if you need a little bit.
Is that better for everybody? Let's do it.
We usually don't take a break in the class, but I think this is a good way to approach it, because just for everyone who might have arrived later or just understanding the next phase of the presentation is David will be transitioning to kind of like a studio. So right out of the sort of theoretical to the practical of doing the kind of work he's been doing, and also showing you more of it. So it's going to be a nice transition. So let's take a solid 10 minutes if we could, David, and we'll come back at 4:10, 7:10 your time.
Sounds great.
Great.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We are on break for 10 minutes. We'll take a pause now from the recording.